Across modern films, games, and novels, the ghoul appears in many shapes: mutated humans, undead creatures, or nightmarish monsters. Yet despite these varied portrayals, the ghoul did not originate in Western horror. Its roots lie deep within the stories of Arabia, the stories that many say were not just stories but were based on real incidents. So let us know in today's video about the reality of the ghoul, the monster that haunts the streets of Arabia even today. The word ghoul comes from the Arabic term ghoul, found in early Arabian culture long before the rebirth of Islam. Some researchers also suggest a connection to older Mesopotamian mythology, particularly a demon-like being called the Galu, an underworld creature feared in ancient civilizations. It was a monstrous creature that was believed to be residing or specifically hiding within deserts. Pre-Islamic Arabs had firmly believed the ghoul lived in deserts, ruins, and isolated places, posing a threat to travelers. Desert journeys were already perilous, and the ghoul became a symbol of those fears, representing deception, death, and the unknown. Classical Arabic lexicographer Ibn Manzur suggested that the word ghoul may be derived from a root meaning to destroy, which itself suggests that there was at least some truth about a creature that was harming the desert travelers. Several early stories mention encounters with ghouls. One narration speaks of the son of a companion of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam allegedly being kidnapped by a ghoul that disguised itself as a woman. Another well-known account involves Umar ibn al-Khattab, radiyallahu anhu, who, while traveling through the desert before Islam, reportedly encountered a ghoul. The creature attempted to engage him, but Umar, radiyallahu anhu, struck it down with a single blow, specifically between the neck and shoulder. This detail appears repeatedly in ghoul lore. A ghoul can only be destroyed with one decisive strike. A second strike, according to legend, would allow it to survive unnaturally long, deceiving its attacker. These were the stories that gained fame after that incident. The Quran does not directly mention ghouls, and references in hadith literature are disputed, with many scholars classifying them as weak or inauthentic. This absence led to differing scholarly positions. However, jinn are clearly affirmed in Islamic belief, created from smokeless fire, invisible to humans, and capable of both good and evil. Because of this, later scholars debated whether ghouls were maybe a type of jinn, or a purely folkloric creation. The dominant view in classical literature leans toward ghouls being a subcategory of jinn, particularly those that deceive travelers and change form. Islamic scholars later on debated over the gender and attributes of ghoul. Some described the ghoul as female by nature, while others argued it could be male or female. Many accounts emphasized shape-shifting, allowing ghouls to appear as humans or animals. Ghouls were said to mislead lone travelers, often pretending to be companions in the night. The 13th century scholar Zakaria al-Qazwini, in Wonders of Creation, described the ghoul as a deformed being that dwells in wastelands, appears alone, and lures people away from their path. Another famous scholar, Al-Jahiz, wrote extensively about animals and mythical creatures. He described the ghoul as a jinn that intentionally misguides travelers, often using fire or lights at night to cause disorientation. But not all scholars accepted the ghoul's existence. The Mu'tazila, a rationalist theological school, strongly doubted ghoul stories. Al-Jahiz himself leaned toward skepticism, arguing that isolation, fear, exhaustion, and cultural conditioning could cause hallucinations in desert travelers. According to this view, people saw what they had been taught to fear. Some poets and storytellers, he claimed, exaggerated encounters with ghouls to gain fame. One of the most famous ghoul stories comes from pre-Islamic poetry, where a man unknowingly carried a ghoul disguised as a ram. As it grew heavier, he realized the truth and then destroyed it with a single strike. His poem vividly describes the creature's distorted appearance. Another major influence is The 1001 Nights, where ghouls appear less frequently but memorably. In the story of Sidi Numan, a man discovers that his wife is a shape-shifting ghoul who secretly consumes corpses. She later transforms him into a dog using magic. However, scholars note that corpse eating is not a classical Arabic belief about ghouls. This trait likely entered ghoul lore through European influence, especially via the French translator Antoine Galland, who adapted and added stories not found in original Arabic manuscripts, possibly influenced by vampire folklore. In Morocco, one of the most feared ghoul-like figures is Aisha Kandisha. She appears as a beautiful woman near water sources and lures men to their deaths. Her true identity is revealed by her animal-like feet, often described as cloven hooves. Despite skepticism and modernization, belief in ghouls has not completely disappeared. In desert regions and traditional communities, the ghoul still symbolizes danger, isolation, and deception, a reminder of humanity's vulnerability in vast, empty landscapes. The ghoul is not merely a monster of horror fiction. It is a complex figure shaped by environment, belief, fear, scholarship, and storytelling. Whether seen as a jinn, a myth, or a psychological projection, the ghoul remains one of the most fascinating entities to emerge from Arabic and Islamic cultural history, continuing to evolve with every generation that retells its story. Because this creature, ghoul, is clearly not a work of fiction. There is no way that a figment of the imagination is being reported in multiple instances. As previously stated, it could be a type of jinn that only lives in deserts and hunts travelers who've lost their way, or traveling alone in remote areas, away from cities. What are your thoughts on this terrifying creature, ghoul? Do you think it's just a piece of fiction used by mothers to silence their children? Or is it a real jinn that still lives in the deserts? Let us know your thoughts in the comments section below. Until next time, Assalamu alaikum.